Okay, we're here for a special council meeting today, November 14th. We need the roll call and determination of quorum.
Sasso. Here. Nordstrom. Here. Scott. Clayton.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Doyle. Here. Lewis. Here. Roberts.
Here.
Wright.
Here.
Lorente.
Here.
We have quorum.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the first item on the agenda is authorize mayor and finance officer to sign bleacher rental agreement with Chadron State College. Oh.
Second.
Yes, we've approved. Those in favor of, no, I was going to say for, I guess we wanted to approve the agenda. Oh. Okay, okay. Okay, well, apparently we don't need to, so let's have, is there a motion? Oh, I didn't hear the motion. Sorry. I know, I haven't had my pastry. Okay, okay, great. We have a motion to approve. Any discussion? Mr. Wright?
I have a couple of questions relevant to the use of these products, and I will support this lease because of prior history. However, in looking over this, I do believe it would be in the interest of the city, and Mr. Lesperance explained this to me, but we are requiring the transporters to have liability, or the lessees to have liability insurance, but I am wondering about cargo, what we used to call in the transport industry cargo or property insurance for the items if they are dropped, wrecked, or whatever by the transporter or the user. And the other thing is that I think we also need to clarify in our rates as to what we charge for transportation clearly, and also the utilization, which I think is in there. I think we have some missing points in the overall agreement.
Okay, was that a question for Mr.
Yes, and I think
Lesperance?
Keith is going to address the issue on the damage to the product.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you state it in a question? Oh, by the way, thank you. I'm Keith Lesperance. I'm the risk manager for the city. And thank you to the City Council for calling a special meeting to accommodate Chadron State College. I know they were in a panic over this NCAA tournament that they've got coming up. It does benefit the entire region because the teams are actually flying in, as I understand, from Chadron State College into Rapid, then busing down to Chadron State for their game.
Okay, my question is this.
Okay.
If the items that are rented are damaged or destroyed in transport or in use, is the replacement or repair covered by insurance, and by whom?
If they're destroyed in transport, as property damage, it would be covered initially under the city's property because the 8 bleachers are on the property schedule. And then whatever the repairs were, we would go back to the leasee seeking reimbursement for the damage repairs.
Okay, the other issue I have, having done this type of stuff before, is knowing who transports and how well they are skilled and trained in transportation of equipment, so they're not going down the road at an excessive amount of speed or improperly stored equipment so they're damaged. What do we do to assure that, because apparently these are not going to be transported or pulled by city vehicles, our city vehicles or our city employees? How do we assure that they're going to be properly and professionally transported?
The people from the renting organization are required to meet a minimum requirements of the equipment they have to have. The minimum requirement is a 3/4 ton pickup, heavy duty 3/4 ton, 2 5/16 inch ball, and the 8-plug wiring harness. They're required to have that as a minimum. Typically they'll use a 1 ton or a 1 ton dually to pull those down the highway. Whether it's parks or whether it's the Civic Center, those staff show them how to hook them up, how to take them down, how to set them up, spread them out, and retract them. As far as transporting them down the highway, they pull very easily from what I've been told by Civic Center and parks. Do we take them out and road test them on the highway? No.
Another question I have related to that. Do you have a pre-trip inspection and return inspection to assure that they return in like condition? Do we have that documented?
It's not documented. Steve Burgett is the one that does that over at the Civic Center, and Scott Anderson is the one over at the Parks Department. Before those things are taken out, they're shown to the leasees, like I just explained. When they come back, they're inspected by whichever one of the two the units come from. They call me and say they're fine, there's no damage, they're in perfectly good shape. I check that off on the contract, and then the damage deposit is returned to the leasee.
I would like to see, in addition to clarification on the cargo coverage or the property coverage, and the clarification on transportation as well as utilization, I think we should have a written inspection prior to shipment and upon return that's documented and part of the lease, part of the record. Not this one.
We can put together a checklist for that Parks and Civic Center would use. That wouldn't be problematic at all. Steve Burgett does a visual, and he looks at all the equipment to make sure, as I'm using Steve as an example over at the Civic Center because that's where the ones for Chadron State are coming from.
I think it'd be a lot like when you rent a car. You walk around and make sure that what you're renting is what you bring back, and you're not getting someone else's damage. But I think it would be a good process, good procedure, and I'm surprised we're not putting it in writing because that could be contentious, I think, if someone came back with something damaged, say, well, that's the way it was, and we really have no proof of that. Correct?
Okay? We can make that happen.
I don't believe I have any more questions.
Okay, Mr. Lewis?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a couple of quick questions. Alderman Wright covered mostly what I was concerned about. Just why is this not an administrative action? If I can, just out of curiosity, there's not the ability to do this internally, or?
Rather than the council approving?
Yeah, I guess.
It is administrative when they stay within the city limits.
Okay.
But the contract, the way it's currently written, requires the city council to approve whenever they go outside the city limits, whether that's down to 13 miles down to Christian High School down at Hart Ranch, or whether that's down to Chadron. That's required by the current contract that we have. On November 24th, Main Street Square is using one unit. That doesn't come before the city council.
Okay, that's
It's
just
an administrative action because it's within the city.
All right, I appreciate that. And one last question, just for clarity to the public: is there any cost associated with this for the public of Rapid City, the citizens of Rapid City? Will it cost us anything out of our pockets?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Nordstrom?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Keith, we've done this before with Chadron. Is that not correct?
As my understanding, yeah. Before I was given the program for the bleacher rentals, that was when I took them, that was before we started this program.
Thank you. Is there any other concerns that you have? I know I've asked you these questions before, and you've answered them very well, but is there any other concerns that we should be aware of transporting outside the city limits?
None whatsoever. I think we've got our bases covered very well.
I'm very comfortable with the process, and you folks have addressed everything in the past. So I'm very comfortable with what you've done and how Steve has also done the inspection. So I'm very comfortable with what they're doing. So kudos to the staff for doing what they're doing.
Thank you. I will tell the council that in all the years we've been leasing these and moving them around within the city limits and leasing them outside the city limits, we've had one incident of damage, and that was with the city of Sturgis, where they pulled into their fairgrounds, and the bumper on one of the units bottomed out and bent it. The cost for that was $61 to repair it, and the city of Sturgis paid the Civic Center $61 out of their damage deposit for their labor that it cost to repair that.
Thank you. Anyway, I'll bite my tongue on the rest of it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay. Charlene, do you have the first and second on that motion? Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor? Aye. I say aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion approved. Second. Thank you very much for coming in and helping out Shadron on this. And
Again,
we're
thank you all
adjourned.
very much.